Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings in Bendham area. Kind of in the neurological element, but yes, somewhere about there. Anyway, so another week. And frustrating as always. It's very difficult doing this communication thing with people. So, this is part one of the pieces all tie together. It's a little late, but yeah, I'm already frustrated, just because it's frustrating to have these frustrating interactions with people. So anyway, I did do this Piro room thing last night, and as context, again, I don't know if Piro's even watched any of the videos I did ragging on all his bullshit. But it doesn't really matter. It's always the same sort of conversation where the subject is just constantly changed. And it sort of relates to this whole second conversation I'm having with Fake Sagan. Who's doing the Jesus thing, blah, 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 blah. And we sort of talked about that before, I don't know, a year or two ago. And I sort of remember it just because it had this back to nature element. Because I remember there was a certain element to Fake Sagan. It was this nihilistic, anti-civilization kind of perception. And that was very much, in my opinion, what Jesus was. Jesus was the whole... You know, this is like not seeing the symptom for the disease, and this whole misdiagnosis of what the problem is. So in the Piro conversation, the misdiagnosis is, why is progressive politics failing? And I'm going to argue it's because the message is silly. You know, progressives have just become silly. You know. And not that they weren't in many points silly and unrealistic. It's just that it had, I would argue maybe, there was a time, maybe in the 70s or 80s, where the conversation was a little more intelligent than it is now, in terms of progressive, meaning some sort of socially responsible and somehow connected to reality. So anyway, going back to Jesus, I would argue that the Jesus story really is the story of a naturalist. Okay, Jesus wasn't just against money lending; he was against almost all elements of civilization. And his Sermon on the Mount, when he starts talking about birds don't have airplanes, birds don't have microwave ovens. All of that kind of stuff, and God provides for them. It's almost as if here you have kind of evidence that he's not really talking about God as a God. He's talking about God as being nature. And that sort of then makes John the Baptist make sense. You know, the whole baptism, back to your roots, back to the water, okay, of the streams and the ocean and all that kind of stuff. And it just makes it all make sense, that what Jesus was really saying was quite sensibly in a way. It was quite a logical argument that we're animals like the other animals. You can say it. Okay, we have all the same parts, and nature provides for them. You know, you don't see a bunch of birds with leprosy. You don't see, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And I've even had this argument about, I think back then, just that, we think of these animals being a lot healthier than they are because the weak and the sick are killed, And maybe that's what the laying on the hands was. Maybe that's how Jesus cured people. He gave them a Vulcan death grip. Who knows? That was the mercy. It was a mercy killer. But you don't need that side. You don't need to go that far with the truther theory about Jesus. I think to recognize that Jesus was not talking about God in some sort of some ruler beyond the fact that this the ruler is this natural system, and you have to play in the natural system. And it was our cheating to become civilized that was breaking the rules of nature, and therefore our excesses were going to get us into trouble. The poo-poo would start piling up outside the house kind of problem. And I'm sure they had plenty of those kind of problems back then, where even a little bit of civilization, you know, unless you have the Romans around, you know, it can get messy. So yeah, there's a bigger context to this whole Christian religion than the silly religion they turned it into. It's a philosophy turned into a religion, anyways. I guess it would be my argument. So the subject has been completely perverted, and I guess that's what I'm saying about all this stuff. The people's perceptions are all perverted to a focus on symptoms rather than a focus on the disease, and I'd argue that Pyrrho is guilty of that. You know, bring me your huddled masses, yearning to be free. Don't create a mechanism where you stop making huddled masses. No, just keep them coming forever. I mean, the whole unsustainable curve thing is you can't fix it from the wrong end. You can't fix it at the output end. You have to fix it at the input end. This kind of argument, and of course, none of these turds can figure any of this out. You know, and you got these little, you know, whatever, the slobs of the conversational texters, gray text, or gray texia, or whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, it has taken a while of sitting through this, listening to Gary complain about how people are paying to keep people alive. Now, I'm just saying that that's a subject that's just kind of simple. So now Gray Text, just because he's so petty, okay, and is fighting all these older battles, now he's going to sit there and try to contrive some rationale in his head that it somehow makes sense to keep people who don't even know who they are, alive. Now, Gray Text, I guess, is that desperate. I mean, so when he's a smelly, old, completely senile, drooling pig sack of useless shit, he will want somebody to be paid $10 an hour to wipe his ass, because that's the kind of shit he is. He's just that kind of a shitty person. You know, so not much you can say. But I think for most rational people, you know, they understand that this is a problem, and the only thing that's creating the problem isn't being created by some huge giant like earthquakes or something. This isn't like preventing earthquakes to prevent this kind of waste. This isn't like trying to prevent tsunamis or something. This horror, this waste, is really easy to prevent. But the only thing in the way is a silly little notion in the people's heads, a little emotional discomfort. And it's easy to get past when you understand how much value you can do in the world, how much good you can do in the world with the resources you're wasting paying people to wipe asses. They can build bridges or you know, make Hoover dams or do all of that really good stuff instead of wiping old people asses. And it's just logical. But no, let's not do that. And I'm like, isn't that what society is doing for Gary? Well, again, it's what society is doing for me. I could I'd go back to, say, 1985. When I was, you know, I had lived off my own resources with my anxiety disorder, and it was becoming harder and harder for me to make a living, and so I wrote a letter to the federal government informing them that I think it's really obscene, you know, that they put people in a marginalized psychological condition in this position where they're going to have to live in this grotesque poverty, and they'll throw me in an institution, or they'll throw me in jail. You know, they'll throw me out of my house. They'll throw me on the streets into a homeless shelter. But they won't allow me to just gracefully get the fuck out, because it just isn't working. I can't play the game you want me to play, so you won't let me just say, can I get up and leave, please? Can I just leave the table quietly, gracefully? No, you're going to force me to blow my brains out, or jump in front of a car, or jump off a bridge, or do some fucking act of violence against myself, because you won't allow me to, in a dignified way, concede that, okay, I'm not productive enough to be part of your little society, so I'll just leave, okay? You know, I don't even like you people anyway. I never really liked it here. I mean, that's the simple truth. I could give you, you know, I can have people testify that I did, you know, threaten suicide more than once before the age of 13. With actual knives to chests and such. So yeah, there was never any moment that your pig slop appealed to me at all. So this whatever, and here you are, a person struggling to find any kind of identity you can live with, and you're going to sit there and preach how isn't it all so wonderful. I mean, you have to completely change your sexual identity to find some peace of mind, and you're going to tell me how that's all worth it. You're struggling with your little self-image problems and all of your little frickin' problems. I mean, that's just too fucking silly. So anyway, it's kind of off the subject, but so yeah, I mean, it's just little comments like this where it's just, you're not even coming close to getting it. So I mean, this comment has absolutely nothing to do with the conversation between me and Piro, which was substantially me just attempting to get Piro to admit that you can't keep talking about idealism, what you want the world to look like in the end. Okay, what everything will look like when everything's cooked and done, when you haven't even put ingredient one, in a sense, into a rational mixing bowl. You haven't even tried to filter the shit out of this. There's no way you can bake what we have in the bowl so far, because it's just going to be unedible. We have all these unsustainable and silly things going on, all this preposterous waste, and there's just absolutely no point in talking about the idealistic future in this context. It's just not going to get the job done. Hope is useless. What you need is constructive, thoughtful action. You know, you need to engineer a solution, not just wish one. Oh, anyway, just very irritating. All right, so anyway, so then I think I'll do fake Sagan. Somebody gave $3,000 to the the Stephanie thing, which, you know, I don't know who this guy was even. Mitch, no. Yeah, it was just the comments are just funny. You know, just because apparently this is Jesus Freak's ex-wife. She apparently doesn't have any contact with him, so he's the one that. Well, anyway, she doesn't know anything about this, she says. Well, I mean, I think obviously she knows from the past that, you know, Jesus Freak was associated with these people, and there was shit that stormed about him. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, this guy, John Maisler, I don't know, so he gave $3,000. So anyway, just kind of, you know, because he's embarrassed that this country cannot provide its citizens with health care. I'm just not too sure that that's exactly how this all went down, but whatever. I mean, we're not given any of the context of the story. We're not even given the income of the family, you know, how many cars they have, what kind of cars they drive. We're not given any information about exactly how desperate, you know, this need thing is here, or why the need exists to, you know, beg. You know, I mean, who is there a new husband for the ex-wife? Is there some, what's, you know, what is the context, actually? But anyway, it's not, who cares? The real point is this, again, I was just arguing that this is all symptom kind of thing, and what there has to be in the world are cure kind of thing. You know, you have to fix this shit. And so, you know, people, they want socialized medicine, they want this and that. Well, you're not going to get it, you know, until you do what it takes to get it, which is you have to defend it and argue for it. And no one seems to want to do that in a rational way. They just want to say, let's everybody have as much as they want. So even if it cost $1 million to keep Stephanie alive, let's say, somehow that makes sense. Let's all do that. So every time a Stephanie catastrophically breaks, let's spend $1 million to keep her alive. And I'm just saying, that's just the huddled masses catastrophe. As soon as you start thinking that way, that that's feasible, then you're going to all have to sell your houses to pay your taxes to afford it. I mean, somebody's got to be practical here somewhere. Well, I guess they don't have to. I mean, we just, you know, we're already, like I said, we're probably already too far down the falls to worry about which way we paddle. Faster, slower, doesn't really matter. The crash will be sufficiently forceful that there'll be enough pain and misery for everyone. Alright, so then I guess I'll just do fake Sagan's comment. I don't know if there's anything else. Alright, I didn't compare you to Diogenes as an insult. I didn't say you did. I mean, where did I say? I don't even think I even indicated that I took it as an insult. I mean, I really just don't care in one way or the other, but I'm just saying, yes, I thought it was a funny story. And in a lot of ways it fits. Yes. You know, sure. Yeah. If you're gonna compare me to a cartoon character of history, that's as good a one as any. He happens to be one of the philosophers I respect the most. Well, I don't know the extent of his philosophy. I don't know if we have much written on it other than, yeah, people suck. Anyway, Gary, you speak of so many abstractions in this video. Well, yeah, that was sort of my point, though, and I don't think they're abstractions. See, that's the kind of thing I'm trying to get to, is the problem of the unsustainable curve, or the unresolvable problem, or the insane duality, or the, you know, the silly, you know, fucked-hearted. Those problems have causes. And my point is that we can't see those causes if we're confused by theories of gods and control and somebody else pulling the strings besides ourselves and our own silly psychology and all of that kind of thing. I mean, no one's pulling the string. It's just that people just aren't acknowledging what they are, which is shitheads, and then acknowledging that, yes, maybe there should be rules that we don't allow our shitheadedness to get out of control. Because the fact is, look, if you put a TV show on, you know, where human beings hacked each other to pieces, I would probably watch it. I would. You gotta watch that, right? I mean, you can't just not watch, because it's fucking two people hacking each other to pieces. I mean, fuck. You know. And they could be like, you know, feminist versus, you know, the MRICKs or whatever they are. The dickless guys against the skanky vaginas. And, you know, battle bots and whatever. I mean, you know, you'd have to watch. But I can know that it's good to say, no, let's not let that happen. It's like gambling, right? I can say, yeah, okay, gambling's fun, but this isn't something we should encourage in people. Let's not make it easy. Let's make it hard. Yeah. Yeah, let's create an obstacle to that. Anyway. In this video, you speak of society, religion, humanity. Yes, because I think all of those those are the bigger subjects. Causes, big subject. Band-aids, duh. Yeah, okay, but I'm just saying, if we just keep knitting band-aids, we're never gonna break free of our slavery to the band-aid making. And that's exactly what the rich want. And that's exactly what the popes want. That's exactly what all the fuckers feeding off of our activity want. They just want us busy. You know, and they want us busy making band-aids. But what does any of that have to do with Stephanie as an individual? It doesn't have anything to do with Stephanie as an individual, beyond the fact that if I described her, she is a poster child, for fuck's sake. She's literally being used as a poster child. So, I mean, you know, that is a subject. So anyway, the world is already messed up 16 years ago when she was born. Was already messed up. Yeah, I'm not blaming her for anything. Again, I don't know what you're saying here. I'm not even saying this shouldn't happen. I'm just saying this context provides a spectacle that should enlighten us to the fact that this isn't the way it should be. So this should be one of those things where you recognize the light bulb turns on and you can see what a mess everything is, and you say, ah, we got to fix this. She isn't responsible for the state of things. Again, I didn't say she was. Where did I do that? I said, great, if you want to, you know, help. I'm just trying to make the bigger point that if we want to do this real reclamation thing, we're going to have to start jumping on some grenades or something. We're going to do something a little more spectacular than, you know, and grease the flipping arm on our bullet injector. Gary, if you think I've succumbed to pretty white women syndrome, and that's your only reason for helping Steph, and that's the only reason I'm helping Stephanie, fine. I didn't say that was the only reason. I'm just saying that it's the squeaky wheel getting the grease kind of thing. It's the pretty face that gets the dough. So I'm just saying that's just a fact of life. I find it lamentable. That's all I'm saying. I don't like the unfairness of it. That's all I said. I'm just basically just saying I don't like this because this is not curing the problem. This isn't fixing the problem. This is just we fix the poster child. It's like the cat thing or anything else. People have their little kitty sleeping on their couch or doing something else, and nobody sees all the little homeless cats being created by the reckless people breeding these animals. So they want the animals to have cute little spots, and they want people to engineer new breeds and do all of this shit, but nobody wants to take care of the consequences of that, which is a bunch of homeless cats wandering the streets. That's my argument, that these you know, you don't want to accept that that's my argument. Okay, you want to say I'm just beating up on a 16-year-old girl? Go ahead. I don't care either. Fine. Okay, fine. Do whatever you want. Anyway, but as I said, do my motivations really matter? Well, yes, I think they do. All that matters is what we do. Well, both of those things are connected, I guess, is my argument. So my argument is, to be well motivated, you have to be rationally motivated. And there is the complexity here of the argument. Like, how exactly can I say you're unwell motivated if you say, let's raise money for making more Band-Aids? When, yes, that's a good thing. It's better than saying, let's go beat the shit out of midgets. Okay, so yes, making Band-Aids is a lot better than beating up midgets. But my point is better than making Band-Aids is, let's try to cure the disease. Yeah. If you prefer to find a haggy looking black chick to help, then do that instead. Well, again, you're the one insisting on doing the band-aiding thing, and that's really not my deal. But help somebody. Well, again, helping somebody by, again, feeding the problem. Like I said, should I go find a starving person to give money to so they can put fruit in their in their uterus to so another starving person exists? So then there's two starving people. It's like the cat thing again, to have these little domestic pets. There's a bunch of unfixed cats, and they end up having kittens in the brutal, natural, harsh reality. And it's all very quite tragic. Prove that you're not just talk. Well, I don't have to do that. Do something good and then come back and tell us about it. No, I don't do that. But I already have done that. I have told people. I've told stories. I mean, I tend to give people money, and I do it in the sense that I'll say, here, okay, I can lend you some money because I don't like living without knowing where the back door is, so to speak. It's like I wouldn't go on a boat if I don't know. Well, where's the life jacket, and what if this boat sinks? Is there a raft? You get on an airplane, you're thinking, well, am I closer to the wing or am I closer to the tail? Which way do I run if the plane's, goes to fucking hell? It's just that kind of natural tendency, I think, for people to be a little self-preservational. And so I think about that shit sometimes. I remember being in a big theater once, and ceiling with chandeliers, and our seats were kind of this big chandelier over your head, like 100 feet above your head. Yeah, and so I was just thinking about, well, if I get under the seat, I might be okay, or which way to try to dive, which is it, more this way or more that way, and so you do these calculations, so yeah, I always have a little bit of cash. I never, I wouldn't sell my last Bitcoin, just because, I sort of need to have some what if money, at least I'm comfortable that way. Well, anyway, the point is, so yes, so somebody can come to me and they can ask for $500 and I can give it to them. And I've done this more than dozens of times. I don't know if it's 100, but probably somewhere between 30 and 50, something like that maybe. And I don't expect to get paid back, in the sense that I don't expect it, right? I hope for it, but I don't expect it. And, I'd say that half the time you win, half the time you lose. And that's okay. But I'm just saying, so I do my what I can when I can. So fuck you. I don't need reclamation, frankly. I'm not here advocating for any harm making. I'm here advocating for harm stopping. I'm not here to impose on anything. I'm not defending animals dying for your oxygen. I'm not defending anything that happens on this fucking sick, stupid planet. So I don't need reclamation. You do. I don't. You're feeling some, inadequacy in your some need for self-improvement. I entered this game completely honestly. I really did. I never wanted to hurt anything. I didn't want to take anything. I just wanted a fair game to play. And I never really trespassed against that kind of ideology. I'm the most unrapey person. Not the most. Okay. I don't want to exaggerate, but I just mean my tendency. I wasn't a grabber, a taker, by any kind of volition. Any trespass I ever committed was an accident. Anyway, prove that you're not just talk. Do something to come back and tell us. No, feed a stray dog. Well, I don't know. I guess you missed that part in the video, but I've been feeding stray cats for 30 years. So add that up. $1,000 a year. That's $30,000 for fuck's sake. Thank you. Help an old lady load groceries in the car. Don't care what you do. Do something. Well, again, I just don't need you preaching to me about what I need to do, because number one, like I said, I don't need the personal boost of a... I need to do something good to feel good about myself, because I don't have any bad to fix. I haven't stolen any feels. I haven't trespassed against any fucking body. Alright, everybody thinks I'm stupid crazy for things I've said about you. Well, I don't know if this, you're going to get, well, I'll just say, that's the way it's going to work anyway. No matter what you say, somebody's going to call you stupid. They all think you're just a hateful piece of shit, and that I'm delusional for thinking otherwise. Well, it just depends on what you mean by hateful piece of shit. Yes, I really do hate poverty. I hate inefficiency. I hate, as Einstein would say, the stupidity of doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different result. I hate the waste, the fucking disgusting waste, all for a graft. I hate it. So yes, I am hateful. But I know there's more to you than just hate, because you love Ocean. Well, again, this love world isn't worth much. Frankly, she was hot, and, well, yes, and yeah, okay, it goes beyond that. I loved her, I mean, the whole, Freddie's nightmare of her poetry, and I mean, it was just, I mean, she had a way with the art, the performance art of being human. She had a wonderful art to her. But love is just such a, and so that's all back to aesthetics again in some way, right? It's really, it always turns into some aesthetic argument, and you're not valuing the real, the brain inside, right? So it's the dog versus the pig. The pig has got the better brain. That's just a fact, and he's just got the shitty body. And who's seeing it? Nobody's seeing it. They just can't get past the obstruction. And I'm just saying, yes, Ocean was beautiful, but there's probably lots of beautiful minds out there. Lots and lots of them, trapped in, just fucking not well-formed transport devices. So where was I? Hateful piece of delusion. If you're capable of loving her, you're capable of loving other people too. So again, I frankly am a respecter of things. I do have that capacity, but love is not necessarily a compliment. Frankly. I mean, stimulating some kind of love instinct in me isn't necessarily, you haven't done necessarily anything of merit, because my sensibilities aren't merit-based. They just aren't. They're crude, kind of tacky, and subjective. So I don't think that's any way to, you don't subjectively drive trains or buses or planes. There's just no way to run a device is based on this kind of impulse bullshit. Yeah, that's probably enough for now. So part 2, who the hell knows? Brett Keane made a video. Or shall I say, Bert Kiney. Yeah, Bert Kiney. Maybe that's what I call him. He can't seem, I mean, he just keeps calling me amendum. I mean, 10 years, this is 10 fucking years, and he's calling me amendum. I mean, it's not that tricky. In, mendum. I mean, he got the mendum part finally right. And it's just like, nah, but he can't get the in, no, not even close. Amendum. Yeah. But anyway, I like Bert. Bert's Kiney. Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah. So anyway, well, there's no point. I won't make a response because there's no point in playing this video because it really didn't have anything to do. I mean, but it's another example where there's people make these arguments and these statements, and they don't quote me. They don't take something out of the video or something and say, "Look, this is what this guy said," and that's just kind of a cheap way to argue. And I'm not saying I could find some statements you could probably use and say, I don't really have a context to fix that one. You know, because one of my off-color jokes or something, you could probably nail me on some of that stuff. But they don't even go to that trouble. And I think quite obviously the rest of my arguments are contextual. I mean, I defend what I'm saying with a context. And it just seems that people just want to keep ripping, you know, the value out of things. They just don't want to bother paying any attention that the part doesn't mean anything separated from the vehicle. It's like breaking the hood ornament off a car or something. It's a nice little, but it has nothing to do with the car anymore. The car's that's probably not a great analogy, but I just mean, the stuff that pops into your head, right? So somehow, because I said car and car ornament, I thought of man and penis, and separating those two things, and what do you have left? Then you just have a brain, a thinking thing that's not distracted by a bunch of bullshit. But anyway, that's a whole different subject. But yeah, there was some asshole made some comment on one of the comment boards somewhere, about that I should be advocating that people, get castrated, and it's just, there's no point in living, but there's really no point, without your nuts. I mean, just no point. Just well, whatever. It's just, which goes back to the whole stupid MRI, AI, whatever subject, because just how these men who can't recognize that they've been privileged, they're privileged to have the functional differences, See, Fake Sagan even said that somewhere about this equality, and I'm not advocating. My feminism isn't saying men and women are equal. My feminism is saying that women really can't cheat too much because their disadvantage is so great. So even if we gave them too much of a head start, or that's the wrong way to say it. Even if we gave them too much equality, it still wouldn't matter, because we're the ones that have all the cheats, so to speak. Of advantage, birthright advantage. I probably didn't say that well enough, but I think you understand. I'm not trying to say women are second class physical constructs. I'm just saying that I know not having a penis can't be a good thing. I just can't. I just know that. And having babies doesn't look like any kind of fun at all. It just seems like one of those, women actually do have some kind of I'm going to do something insane clock running in their head, because they have to, or they wouldn't they'd kill themselves. So they have to have some sort of clock that somehow makes them irrational enough to say, yes, I want to feed a giant parasite in my belly, and then I want to rip my vagina to pieces and flop out, and yes, I'll spend the next years, months and months and months and months being totally tied to this whiny, smelly, dirty thing. Yeah, see, it was fake saying he made this argument, like, oh, because women didn't go to war, which they do now, so he can't even make that argument, but in the past, that they didn't show up for war, that somehow they're not entitled to what men bought with their little blood games. And first off, yeah, all the wars look pretty fucking stupid, just a huge waste, a bunch of rape and pillage, which doesn't have anything to do with any kind of woman's idea. But even if I was to accept that argument, then why don't you reverse it and force men to spend some time in the foxhole of be tied to a little smelly fucking baby and spend every day taking care of its every fucking smelly pukey need. Yeah, give me the fucking foxhole. Thank you very much. Lock me in a refrigerator with a possum for 10 years. It's got to be better than either one of those choices. So anyway, so enough for part whatever. The first half, the summing up of the week's fun, which I don't know if I entirely did, but it's close enough for now. Yeah, I believe it is. So I'll do something else almost immediately, and sum things up in some respect, or some other thing I'll do. Whatever, I'll notice some other little thing and say, oh, well, maybe I should say something about that, and that'll be the end of the video then, once I do that. Alright, so, till then, and such. Alright, I'm back. Yes, finishing up. I don't think I'll bother, whatever, yeah, doing some other kind of segment except just responding to stuff related to this subject. So, the key thought here is sort of related to the whole symptom thing. I mean, I've quite obviously, because of cats having a certain amount of sympathetic appeal, have been compelled to be a Band-Aid knitter. And so I've knitted Band-Aids for 35 years because of other cats, because of cats, not of stray cats, cats that come to my door and beg, and then I say, okay, I acquiesce, because what are you going to do? So other people's problems show up at my house, and I have had to take care of them because they're overwhelmingly sympathetic to me emotionally. They get to me emotionally. And it's so unfair in the sense that although I occasionally will try to be kind to a possum or a raccoon, I just understand I can't do that. Because they're more of an animal and they'll do animal things, and but they're just as sympathetic in a sense emotionally. It's just that I'm more afraid of a negative future consequence. But again, it's Band-Aids. Band-Aids, 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 Band-Aids. And it's incredibly inefficient. And when I even look at, like I said, if I took all the money I've spent because of people's cats issues, and if I had that money right here now, right, I mean, with interest, it could be like $50,000 worth of equity, okay, that's been lost to civilization, to some better, more constructive purpose. And that's sort of my argument here, is that if we're going to be rational human beings, we should recognize this is how you make these unsustainable curves of brokenness and problems. This is why the poor will be with you always. Is the only way to get out of that syndrome is to take resources now and invest them in stopping the bleeding, to stopping the disease that's causing the bleeding. That's a better way to say it. And that apparently is a conversation no one is capable of having. Just no one. Can't find a single person. They'll just glib all over what I just said now. People are just going to glib the fuck all over it. Pretend it never was said. Pretend it doesn't have anything to do with a fundamental. It's the fundamental subject. It is the subject. As the examples I give, like solar energy. I'll point out how here Germany and Australia have invested a huge amount of money in solar energy in a almost silly inefficiency. Doing it wrong. Doing it so you waste 50% of the value, which is perhaps $1 billion or something. A big pile of money just pissed away on reckless and sloppy implementations. And that this should mean something to somebody, and it just doesn't. They just say, well, we're still getting 25% of the value, so that's all that matters. It's like saying Donald Trump's a lunatic, and then somebody will point out Hillary's a jerk. No, the subject is Donald's a lunatic. No, that's not the subject. So there's just no point, in a sense. So, you know, the capacity of human beings to have conversations that will fix problems rather than perpetuate them is the problem. So I'll read a little paragraph from the Stephanie page just because it just uses a couple of words that just point out exactly what causes the problem. But whatever. The fake Sagan has also 5 questions for amendum. And they're all questions that have to do with personal crap. And again, I'll keep saying what we have to do is use our logic, our brain, our thinking logical mechanism, and try to use that with discipline, and try not to have it influenced by our personal, subjective bullshit. And then people just obsess about, well, your philosophy must be entirely based on some sort of personal blah, 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 blah. I keep saying, no, it's just based on the fact that I never really caught on to any of these games you're playing, okay? You all fell in love with some sport or something, and then you could rationalize anything, right? As long as you love the Yankees, then rape will be okay if it's Yankees who did the raping, right? So as long as it's your guy you will defend to the end, because he's better than all those other guys, or whatever the thing is, and it just becomes this stupid pattern of psychology ruling people's passions rather than anything called a principle or intelligence. And it's like even to advocate that, well, we got to up the intelligence game. They don't want to hear that because apparently they know they're stupid as fuck, and they're like, well, I don't want to be out of the game. You know. But I mean, really, if you're going to let people vote who frankly are stupid as bricks, then yes, you're going to have a society made of stupid bricks. But anyway, these are just facts. So I don't just pointing out that this is the disease: ignorance, stupidity, bad reasoning, recklessness, greed, graft. You want honest politics? Elect honest men. Elect men willing to say you can torture me. So Trump is for torture. Will he swear to the American people that you may torture me if I break the law, if I violate a constitutional principle in the exercise of my authority? And so if he's for torture, doesn't he think that should be a capital offense, a treason against constitutional principles? Yeah. So does he, but if you want an honest man, I guess you have to find men willing to say, I'm not going to fuck you, and you can have the gun pointed at my head the whole time, okay? The whole time I'm doing what I'm doing, you can have the gun pointed right at my fucking head. Now, like those kind of people, instead of people who are evading responsibility, okay? Have cops willing to say, yeah, if I cheat, if I steal, if I throw dope in somebody's house, or I throw a gun at the crime scene, or if I start stealing graft money, yeah, you can throw me in jail 3 times the penalty. Yeah. This isn't hard to solve. You want accountability, you want honesty? Well, you got to be rational enough to recognize what it looks like, for fuck's sake. And it doesn't look like any of these assholes. Anyway, tell me about your nervous breakdown. No. Look, I've already done all this. There's no point in giving personal information on the internet. Just stupid, okay? But I've done videos on my anxiety disorder. Started when I was about 13. First it was tall buildings, then it was elevators, then it was staircases, then it was this. First started off kind of claustrophobic, and then it just got people associated. Really difficult. Had to work through it all the time. I ended up working in restaurants full of people. Very bad for my condition. And just fighting with it all the time. Nauseous, really uncomfortable. Blah 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 blah. And yeah, by the time at the end of high school, I couldn't even walk through the hallways at the high school. I walked around the building. I didn't even go to high school, frankly. My senior year, I had 679 cut slips. But they graduated me anyway because I said, "Fuck you, I just don't care." And they said, "Okay, we'll give it to you anyway." Because yeah, I already had all the credits anyway. All I didn't have was I didn't have enough gym credits. Gym. It's really important. Anyway, so anyway, so yeah, the principal basically violated the law. Blah blah blah. Let's all go get him and shoot him, because that was a horrible tragedy. He gave me a diploma, because I said "fuck you, I don't care." Anyway, do you still have? Well, anyway, so I had been accepted to college. I was paying for it because I had made lots of money. I had $35,000 in the bank when I was 17 years old, and a new car. All money I earned. But that's sort of it. I burned myself out, maybe, in a sense. Well, anyway, so the next few years I worked in a machine shop, and now I can only work at night, and then I can only drive at night, and blah blah blah. And it just got worse and worse and worse, and eventually I became small location bound. Do you still have nervous break? Yes. I don't have panic attacks. I have I'm gonna puke attacks. What percentage of your day do you spend thinking negative thoughts? About 50-50. 50-50. Half the time penis running the show, half the time brain running the show. How many real-world interactions do you have within an average day? The average day now, or average day in the summer, or average day 6 months ago versus now? A lot of things. Certain little things have changed in my life lately, so the environment has changed. But I used to manage the property here, blah blah blah, and there was tenants and there was things I had to deal with, so I had to deal with people and blah 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 blah. What was the most recent instance in which you did something to make another person feel good? Who the hell knows? Let's see. Think. I informed my neighbor that his truck window was open. Yeah, how's that? I think it made him feel good. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah. And certainly I fed the cats this morning, and that pleased all of them. So if cats can be people too. But whatever. So enough of that crap. They're not very probing questions, in my opinion. They don't really get to anything about any kind of deep thoughts, kind of a thing. So anyway, so here's this spiel from Mrs. Stephanie. I was thinking about this again. I mean, she's 16 years old. Apparently, they never took her to a gynecologist, which I don't think that's right. I mean, I think if you have a daughter, she should end up at a gynecologist before she's 16. And I was just thinking, how'd they find out about this then? Well, maybe it's because she was going to try to have sex with somebody, and they figured out they couldn't do it, which would taint the the beauty of the story a little bit, wouldn't it? It would taint it a little bit if that's how they found out. So anyway, all right. So yeah, it's just this part in here. Although the surgery we're having still will not correct any of the aforementioned problems, so it doesn't fix any problems. This surgery will help her in correcting an important deficiency that this horrible disorder has created, and will help her lead a happy, normal, and healthy sex life. Now, it's not going to be normal, so that's just silly. Now, healthy, okay. But, it's just this idea that they're reconstructing reality, and you're not. You're just making you're making a pouch, basically for the man to use, and it really, I can't really construct in my head anyway how this is going to enhance her experience substantially. But whatever. So this is some sort of gift to the fucker, not the fucky. Anyway, alright, okay, so this is the real part I wanted to read. We never heard of anything like this. We didn't even know something like this was possible. So just this whole idea that you have kids and you don't realize that there's all kinds of deformities that are possible, that you could have all kinds of, that your kid could get cancer and die, get leukemia and die. Lots of things can happen. You were unaware that there could possibly be some kind of disorder or time bomb ticking in your daughter right now, that at any minute she could just drop dead because of a blood vessel breaking in her fucking head. So this is how thoughtless people are in having kids, because I was thinking about that, frankly, when I was a teenager. I mean, my first thoughts, I'd say, you go all the way back to when I was 10 or 11, and just when you start to think about the idea that, what, I'm supposed to get married and have kids, and just thinking about that process, I was kind of just stunned at the, whoa, what do I want to do this for? I want to go play with trucks, or I want to watch my fish. I had fish tanks. I don't want to raise kids. That sounds like a horrible mess you're getting yourself into. All kinds of tragedies happening. You got to rush them to hospitals or do this. I mean, I was already convinced I don't want this responsibility. Anyway, her doctors were baffled as well. Well, apparently she never saw one. So her doctors, now all of a sudden she has doctors, and they're baffled. What? They don't know the disease is a reality? I don't think they were baffled. It's still so, I think they're baffled as, how the fuck could you not know your daughter doesn't have, half of her female parts? It's still so very hard to process, especially as a mom. I don't know, is that it? So especially as a mom, you can't process the fact that you're not going to be incredibly lucky and everything didn't work out exactly the way you planned, because you have mom powers, and it's especially for mothers. They have just, when reality smacks them in the face, it's just so incredible, because they had no concept that there was a thing called reality, because they're doing their mommy thing, and their mommy thing doesn't think reality exists. There's no such thing as horrible tragedy and deformity and all that shit. No, no, no. I'm mom. Therefore, I won't have anything bad happen to me because I'm a mom. Whatever the fuck that is. When everything gets quiet. Okay, so this, especially as a mom, when everything gets quiet. I just thought that was... When everything gets quiet for a mom, okay? So what is that, like some kind of mom meditation? Okay. When it gets quiet, okay, cool. Let's see. Everything is louder, if that makes sense. No, it doesn't really. Not in this case, because you would think you could have done a little bit of that introspection before you became a parent. I mean, just a little bit of in the quiet thinking. Like, take 5 minutes and sit down and say, everything be quiet, please. Dog, cats, mice, everybody be quiet so I can do a little bit of thinking, because I can't think when there's any kind of sound. So I'm in the quiet and I'm thinking and I'm saying, let's see what happens when you have a kid. Oh, it could have lots of problems. Yeah, lots of deformities. First it could be born a midget or something, and then it could be born with a crooked penis, and it could be born with all kinds of problems and all kinds of miseries, and it could be ugly. Oh my God, and it could go bald when it's, 27, and it could have all kinds of, it could have a big nose and, crooked eyes or something, and it can have all kinds of problems. It could be born with teeth on its anus. I mean, all kinds of horrible shit can happen. So maybe you should have thought about some of that crap. And maybe you should have thought about, why am I having a kid? Now, what am I doing this again for? Oh, that's right, because I'm so vacuous, I need some kind of thing to chain. I have to chain myself to, because I can't figure out where to go. I'm like a cow behind the wagon in the old days. They tie they put the hoopy through its nose, and they just tie it to the wagon. It just gets tugged along. So you need a hoop in your nose, and you need to be tugged along, because you can't figure out what to do with yourself unless there's some fucking baby you're tied to, okay, and you have the mission of, getting it across the street. I mean, that's all you people are. You're baby rustlers. Anyway, it's important to me. Okay, it is important for me to have this surgery for her. Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds, I don't think that's exactly what you're doing. I don't think you're having the surgery for her. I think you're imposing the surgery on her because of your action. Because you decided to shoot another vulnerable consciousness into this imperfect world to live some kind of sloppy, crappy life. Gee. Most important, so she knows this is not the end of her life. Well, I guess if she doesn't know that by now, then you're lousy, rotten philosophers. Because you should have been able to explain to her that there's all kinds of ways that this isn't a problem. And damn, fuck you, bitch. If you're lamenting a misfortune and you look like this, I mean, let me play reality with you a little bit. Okay, and let me give you the miseries and liabilities that the rest of the world has to have right on their fucking face, right on their body deformations, right on, you're lucky. Yours is hidden way the fuck up your vagina. I mean, if you're going to have a deformity, isn't that a great place to have it? Is somewhere up your ass or someplace where no one's going to be looking? So shit, you're pretty fucking lucky. Okay, in terms of gameplay so far, and not too much to be lamenting. I mean, you're way ahead, but again, perfectionism is a liability of intelligence. So maybe she's smart enough to know that. Well, why should I accept mediocre just because everybody else is? I mean, I should eat at the pig trough because there's actually something called a double pig trough. It's even smellier and stinkier. Yeah, see, none of this makes any sense. So anyway, they're up to $9,505. So they're almost to the goal. Yay! So anyway, it's like a little kitten being fed. It's good that the kitten got fed. But again, if the production of the need isn't going to be stopped, then this is just more not very smart, bring me your huddled masses kind of crap. That was like a trick the French played on us, right? Wasn't it? The French were basically saying, hey, we got enough huddled masses over here. Let's give the United States a big present, but we'll write this crap on it. So they get the liability of all those huddled masses going there. You can almost see them calculating, especially those dirty gypsies. Anyway, but whatever. That's a joke, by the way. The French have been very, very good to the United States. I mean, we wouldn't have won the Revolutionary War. George Washington would have been a joke, and Jefferson and all those, they all would have been dead. And there'd be comic strips written by the kings, money. If it wasn't for the French. French saved the day. I don't know, somebody knocked something over. So anyway, alright, so now I think I have done enough of this communicating for this week, and so till next time, tune in for the next episode of In Random Says Shit About the Shit. Yeah, whatever it is. Oh, what the fuck, that's what it is. Yeah. The podcast. Yeah. Yeah. So, outro music. Brett Keane is a dumb fuck. He's a stupid, 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 stupid motherfucker. He couldn't be any dumber. He couldn't be a bigger liar. He couldn't be a bigger faker or a fraud. You might as well call him Snake oily, because that's all he's got is shit to sell. Dum-de-dum. Fuck him in the ass until the generic death sets in. Yes. Oh, fuck you. Bert Keane. Yep. Anyway, next time and such.